We're off to a good start. This is Dr. Alan Christianson, one of my dearest friends, Pedram Shojai, with me here.
Hey.
He's the guy with the other faces.
I got the high beams with my eyes. Like whenever I do videos, they're just like, dude, turn off your brights. I'm like, I can't help it. I can't help it.
You get worked up, you get excited.
That's it. I'm like a Labrador.
So we're talking about the urban monk. And this is an awesome concept that happens to be in a book, but it's a whole concept. It's a whole radical different idea about getting through this whole modern life that we're in. Can you just tell us the basic inspiration of the story?
Yeah. The inspiration is I go off and study all this stuff. I come back to the West trying to, heal people as a physician in Los Angeles, realizing that they don't have time to do any of the crap I was recommending. And then it occurred to me that it's because the lineages that taught this stuff were teaching it to monks who had time to sit around and do this all day. And so how can I feel guilty about missing an hour and a half long yoga class when I want to go home and see my kids, and feel guilty about not doing an hour of meditation every night when I get home and by the time I eat dinner, it's bedtime. So how do we integrate these practices into, real lives here down on earth, and not feel guilty about, doing it perfectly so that we could reap the rewards. So that's been really my shtick.
It's one of those things to where it seems like such an obvious message, but I really haven't heard this before. We have these lofty ideas, but all these things that we could do to not be stressed, and we stress ourselves out trying to cram them all in. And
Totally. It's like, all you need to do is stand on your head for 4 hours a day and all your problems go away. Like, great, thanks. Now what can I do?
And I don't know if you feel this way, but it seems that there are more people who are just trying to look beyond day-to-day life and trying to make more sense or grasp some more meaning. Do you feel that there's a trend in that direction? Or?
Well, look at the headlines every day, right? The weather, again, this last year was the hottest year on record, and the year before that was the hottest year on record before then. So it's like, okay, the ice caps are melting, the world's going crazy, the Middle East is blowing up, oh, the stock market's tumbling again. And what the heck is going on here? And so the world has kind of forced us to stop and re-examine and be like, hey, what are we doing? Why are we all getting cancer? Why are we all sick and stressed and just beat up all the time? And how come no matter how hard we push, it doesn't get better? And so maybe we're doing things wrong. Maybe we need to relook at things. And I think this is a really important time in human history. And it's a time for us to kind of reflect upon the directions we're taking. And a lot of it is just our burn rate in our own lives, so that we're not just beating up our adrenals and getting wound up all the time thinking some trip to Maui or some golf trip or whatever it is that we do to self-medicate is going to fix that, right? And better than any. It's just like once your adrenals are shot, it takes a lot of work to bring it back. And so my metaphor there is like, we live our lives spending our day-to-day expenses on a high-interest credit card, hoping one day we'll hit the lotto or something and be able to pay it off. And it's not sustainable. So how can we get sensible and sustainable so that we can just live balanced lives here and now? And I'm shocked that conversation hasn't been happening more and more. And that's, what really drew me out. I'm a filmmaker, it's what drew me out to write this book, is because, I'm just tired of all this kind of lofty spiritual language that just says go off and be a Buddha. It's like, okay, well, let me find time in my iPhone to schedule that in.
And what I loved about the book too is that you really did bring it down. Like they say, you landed the plane. You made it very tangible. And you had so many case stories of those who've actually gone through these processes and with the constraints of modern lives made that transformation.
Yeah.
Shown that it's possible.
Well, so I started off before I became, kind of an Oriental medicine doctor. I was pre-med at UCLA. I've been a scientist my whole life. So, I make data-driven decisions. And so if something works, I'm interested to know how and why it worked, and I'm interested in doing it again and figuring out if I could do it better and do it more effectively. And so I feel like a lot of the people in the kind of self-help community just kind of make things up and be like, hey, this would be a good idea. And they're just not grounded in reality, where nothing made my book that hasn't been pressure tested in the lives of normal people in the world that we live in. And look, if it doesn't work, people are just like, screw you, I'm moving on, right? So you better be able to help them because they're suffering.
Yeah. So of the top, like the top three counterintuitive, unexpected tips, like what's like one of those, for any listeners, like one thing that they would find in this that they really wouldn't hear somewhere else, that you found like a big needle mover for people?
There's a lot of those. Let me think of my top three, because for me, one of them would be,
yeah, just one of the top three.
Yeah. One of them would be, look, it seems counterintuitive, but I'm standing right now. And if you want more energy, spend more energy, right? And so, I have a standing desk and a standing station, and I got kettlebells over there, and I got dumbbells right here. And literally, like, half the time I'm standing at my computer, I've got like little weights, and I'm just doing kind of shoulder stuff. And it's about breaking the habit of stagnation. And so one of the things that you know better than most is that if you spend 8 hours a day parked up on your butt at some desk, and your average commute in America, at least, is about an hour a day. And if you're in LA or somewhere like, crazy, it's like a couple hours. So let's just say 8 to 9 hours a day parked up on your butt, sitting there and just working or doing whatever you're doing. It shuts down your physiology. It shuts down your body's capacity to produce energy out of the mitochondria. It stops the blood flow. It starts to bring things out of your brain and just kind of settle things and gunk things. And 1 hour at the gym, if you're lucky enough to make it to the gym and do an hour of like serious exercise a day, still isn't enough to offset the damage, both biomechanically, posturally, and physiologically, from just sitting around being crunchy all day. So, I have 2,200 companies that I consult with in my corporate wellness business, and it's all about getting them up and standing and moving all day, because you cannot make up for that time sitting on your butt. And what happens is your metabolic rate goes up. You have more energy, you burn more fat, you feel better. And I'm standing here and all of a sudden I'm like, my back gets a little cranky. So I stretch a little bit, right? Or I'll just drop and do a bunch of squats. And so one of the things I've been doing a lot of is saying, look, every 25 minutes, I want a beeper, a timer on your phone, on your watch, on your computer, to say break time. And for 5 minutes, every 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, do 10 reps of something, whether it's jumps, squats, push-ups, pull-ups if you got it, but just stay active throughout the day. You start to look at, 10 reps times 2 an hour, 20 an hour basically, times 8 hours, is you just at the minimum did 160 reps of something. Wow. Throughout your day that basically got you to feel better, spend less time at the coffee pot, right? Which means then your blood sugar doesn't do this crazy thing because you're, swiping your energy credit card, drinking caffeine all day, right? And you're just feeling better all day.
That's so cool. What are your thoughts about just the productivity when you're standing? Like no real loss from that, I'm assuming. And I've heard some who have concerns about that, about if they're sharp, and most say there's really no problems with that.
No, and for me, I'm like, maybe it's just like my fidgety nature, but I'll throw a foot up and do a pigeon pose on one side, and I'll switch to the other side. I'll literally kick up a foot and stretch my hamstrings. If I'm on the phone, forget about it. There's a window right behind me. That's called outside, right? I tell people too. I say, hey, I'm a health and wellness dude. If you don't mind, I'm going to take this call while taking a walk, and I recommend you do the same because I'm pretty sure you don't want to be cooped up in an office all day. And they're like, hey, great idea. And so me and whoever it is, we're taking a walk.
Yeah.
So, if it's an hour-long phone call, I don't know, 2 miles, 3.5 miles, depending on how much you're trucking.
Right.
That a couple times a day. You don't need to go to the gym. I mean, the gym is gravy. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate on the gym, but who's got time for that?
Mm-hmm. That is so cool. So huge fan of the book. Who's like the ideal person that's going to need this and transform from this?
Pretty much everyone I grew up with, which is it's like anyone who has a job that's short on time and is complaining about not having enough energy at the end of the day. This book is about filling up your tank so that you're just not out of gas by the time you get home, and then your kid wants to like play with daddy and you're just like, not now. Right? That's what I think, I think we have an energy crisis in our culture. And that energy crisis is leading to divorces. It's leading to kids basically being babysat by video games. And it's leading to people not following their dreams and their aspirations. And a lot of that just has to do with not having the mojo to really kind of see things through and have the clarity to be focused on what you want to get done in life. And so meditation, qigong, tonics and supplements, there's a lot. I mean, the book is chock full of like recommendations for all that, but it's more the top down philosophy of understanding that, if you consider energy like cash, you want to have some cash in your pocket so that you could have some cushion. And if you are bankrupt energetically, you're going to get sick. Your immune system doesn't, get what it needs to get. Your brain doesn't need what it needs to get. And you certainly don't have the enthusiasm to go pick up your kid and chuck them around. And so it's really diminishing your shine in the planet. And then there's a lot of things that happen, right? Like most of us can't even extract energy from our food because our digestion sucks. So there's a whole chapter on that and how to fix that, right? But from there, then what, right? So how are you spending that energy? How are you managing your time? Do you say no to things so that you can do the things that you've already committed to doing? Or are you just a chronic overcommitter and, you just want to people please, so you just take on things and you wonder why you're stressed out? So really, I think it's more of an operating system and really looking at how we function, like if your life was a company, how are you running that company? What departments need help? And how can you eke out more efficiency in those departments so that you could be profitable in your life and really walk towards your dreams and aspirations?
That's awesome. Such a dear friend. Always happy to see you. And this is a brand new message, whole new thing, incredible book. I'm just glad to be behind it. And thanks so much for taking the time with this, Pedram.
Doc, I love you, man.